I'd like to call this meeting to order. Will you please rise, if possible. And join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Mrs. Munson.
Amber Benson. Here. Katrina Binkowitz.
Here.
Doug Day.
Here.
Joseph Wetmore.
Here.
Edward Levine.
Here. So our first order of business, which is item 4, is the public hearing on proposed local law number 1 of 2019 to override the tax levy limit at 631, which I believe it is. Okay, so Andrea moves it, Joe seconds it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So one of the things we do, can everybody hear me by the way? Okay, so one of the things we're trying to be very sensitive to is everybody hears us. So one of the things I would recommend to my colleagues up here is that when you want to share a comment, please make an effort to talk into the microphone. I've been made aware that some of us can't be heard, and we are working on a solution to the microphones. And for some meetings, if we have to have more microphones because we have more board members, that is one of the options that we're trying to address, so that everybody feels comfortable. We're also looking into the option of a portable microphone, so people are comfortable in their seats as far as that when they address the respective boards. You know, we try to encourage people to interact, and one of the things that I find interesting is that we also need not just to ask them, but be sensitive to their needs. I'll try not to shuffle papers. I apologize if Mr. Berger's not here tonight, but that was not intentional. But I'm made aware of that, so out of respect for the process, I won't at least try to minimize that. I think also for the clerk, assistant clerk trying to have the minutes, that's also difficult sometimes as we're shuffling papers, is more of an effort to be efficient and moving on to the next item as a distraction, and there was no negative intentions for that. So one of the things is to try to be more sensitive to the public, but also to be able to communicate better. And I think that process going forward will continue to build on the positives, and we'll try to minimize the negatives. So having said that, the motion to open a public hearing for the 2019 override the tax levy limit. This is something we have done every year I've been here to give the flexibility of the town to, in case they have to, raise taxes above the proposed limit. I don't know off the top of my head what that limit is, but we want to have that flexibility. Hopefully, I think last year was when it got raised 5 cents was the first year it ever was raised in at least the 3 years I've been supervisor. And I'll apologize publicly for that also, because I hate to raise taxes. Because it's your money, and it's the last resort. And I always maintain it's the last resort. You give us tremendous power to take your money, and I want to be a humble servant and not just jump on it as the first resort. So having said that, have we given enough time in case there's any public comment about the tax levy?
Have you invited public to come forward?
I was about to do that. But in my way, but we would be formally to invite the public to have any comments pertaining to the tax levy as far as the override process. I guess not. So I think we've had enough time then. Close. Doug's made a motion to close the public hearing.
I second it.
Andrew seconds it. Mrs. Munson.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So now we're going on to item number 5. Number 5 is the resolution adopting local law number 1, 2019 to override the tax levy limit.
I'll move that.
I'll second.
Okay, so Andrea moves it and Joe seconds it. Any further discussion? Mrs. Munson?
Andrew Benson.
Yes.
Katrina Binkowitz.
Yes.
Doug Day.
Yes.
Joseph Wetmore.
Yes.
Edward Levine.
Yes. Limited to 20 minutes with a maximum of 3 minutes per speaker. There is a list of privilege of the floor rules here. Do you have that copy, Joe?
I don't have a copy.
Okay. One of the things as we try to sensitize people to increase the positive interactions with the respective boards is not only to ask the members of the boards to be respectful, but also, in all fairness, I try to put myself in the position of the people who are trying to make comments. And sometimes it's just a lack of knowledge, and that's on me. So we have put in the back, and it's going to be in the minutes for the next few months and probably forever as far as I'm concerned. There's a list of privilege of the floor as far as what the procedure is. And Joe, you want to read it?
I actually think we just have it in the back and people can read it.
Are you okay with that?
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I'll go put it in the back so people know.
Well, there are some back
There's
there.
there's some
Yeah.
on the table on the left if you're
Okay,
headed towards
I think everyone can read it.
And we also we'll put it on those tables. I also recommend it to the other boards to have it on their tables as we continue to sensitize not only the people that speak to us, but also to them that receive their comments. So having said that, privilege of the floor, I have one name down here, and if other people feel as though they need to speak afterwards, please raise your hand, and we also will acknowledge them. The first one I have is Diane Beckwith. Hello.
Hello. Hello.
There you go.
I'm Diane Beckwith. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'm here to ask this board to act in opposition to the conversion of the power plant to natural gas. I know that the plant's application is currently in abeyance, which means it's temporarily suspended. They told me it was suspended for a period of 6 to 10 months, so it would be acted upon or possibly acted upon again until after the first of the year. But that means it's also, it could be acted upon in the future. It's not dead, it's still out there. So if the plant converts to natural gas, we've heard there's an average of 30 trucks a day possibly coming through Lansing. But the press release from the company says it could be 25 to 60 trucks a day, which means it could be 60 trucks a day or 120 truck trips, most of which would be going right through Lansing and past the schools. Here's some questions that people have asked as I've spoken to neighbors and friends. One, do the supporters of this conversion realize that the entire Lansing school campus is in the evacuation zone should an accident occur? How can that possibly be an acceptable risk? Another asked, why do we keep hearing things like catastrophic loss of tax revenue and huge tax burden when school officials have publicly said that that is not the case? And also, what message are we sending our children by supporting an increase in the burning of fossil fuels and further endangering their future when we should be decreasing it wherever possible? A plant manager has said that they're getting nowhere with their solar plans or their tentative plan for the solar farm, and they're currently looking at other business possibilities for the site. We should be supporting that in every way possible. That would generate growth in Lansing and increased tax revenue without risks of increased traffic, trucks carrying toxic gas, and further pollution of our environment. I'm asking this board to reconsider the impact of this conversion on our community and act in the best interest of our health, safety, and future. And I am requesting that the Lansing Town Board notify Governor Cuomo of our opposition to this application outright, clearly telling him and the DEC that Lansing does not want or need the Cuba power plant to repower with natural gas now or any time in the future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That is the only one I have on the formal list for the floor. Does anybody else want to speak? If not, we will move on to our next item, which is number 7. And that's the Lansing Community Library Report. It's in your packet. Is there anything? Yes, go
I'd
ahead.
like to make a few comments. I would just like everybody to be aware that on Monday, April 29th, is our annual meeting, the meeting of the trustees, open to everybody. And then the next day is a vote for a new budget and also new trustees. There will be 3 trustees. Seats are up. The budget is only going up a little over $9,000, which is really very little. But everybody felt that we shouldn't ask for more than what we needed. Also, item number 5, on May 11th, a Saturday, Hillary Lambert is going to talk about algae blooms in Cuba Lake, the Cuba Lake Watershed Network. And I attended a meeting in Aurora, and that was the topic. She did not speak, but we listened to 5 different, very knowledgeable people from all different areas, from agriculture to climate change to testing the lake water. And I thought it was actually very, very interesting. I was kind of surprised. I looked at it and said, oh, I know nothing about the algae blooms. Let me learn. So I would recommend this talk to anybody because it is something that's a concern for our lake. That's it.
So the absentee ballots, are they available now?
Yes, you can get an absentee ballot if you can. Just vote on the 3.
And you give us the dollar amount. You know how much that is, like per thousand or whatever it is? What the increase will be?
What the increase will be?
Right.
It's about 5 cents.
5 cents a thousand?
It's very little, and of course, if you buy a book, just one book a year, it's paid for the increase in your tax.
You have the book sale, what, twice a year? Once a year?
Yeah, the next used book sale is going to be in June 21st.
Okay, that's right there,
Yep.
36, and then Saturday, June 22nd.
And there's a perpetual book sale right by the counter. But some books come in that looks just too good to be true, like nobody ever opened them.
Oh my,
So they gather those and they ask them $1.
okay. Good. Good. Anything else on that?
Not on the library.
Move on to the next item, which is item number 8, the Lansing Youth Service Report.
Okay, I'll speak to that too, since I'm representative to that also.
Good.
As it says in the report, everything's going extremely well. The spaghetti dinner, which is an annual event for the kids, is Friday, May 3rd. This is an event, it's to raise money, but it's mostly to teach the kids who are in the program how to relate to others, literally. A lot of the kids have never asked somebody, would you like spaghetti with or without sauce? They've never asked an adult anything like that. So it's a teaching moment, and also they get to set up the room, they get to interact with adults, and then we usually make a few $100s, not a great amount of money. But it's a good dinner. It's done at All Saints Church every year. It's put on by the Lansing Youth Commission, and it would be wonderful if everybody could attend, and the board will get free tickets. But if you want to donate, that's even better.
That'd be better.
And then their fishing derby is on June 15th. This we've had for many, many years, and it's a very well-attended event where the kids go down and try to catch whatever, mainly in Summit Creek at the end. And everybody's welcome to that one too.
Excellent. Okay. Number 9 is the Tompkins County Legislator Mike Siglet. He is not here tonight, but his report is in the packet. That moves us to item number 10, 3 days of family. Yeah, that's right. Ish.
I left Virginia Beach at 3 a.m. this morning, so yeah. Very well rested. So with our department, a couple new things, point of sale stations in our office now. Hopefully those will come in very handy with the summer programs. LVP and LSP teams have been selected. T-ball will happen in another week or so. We hope, fingers crossed, that the summer program book will be out on Friday. That's our goal. We tried to get it out last week, but certain things didn't come in, so we're still working on a few tweaks. Our new code of conducts are all completed, and the coaches for baseball, softball got those in their binders. They also got a packet with drills and skill sets to practice. Started all our outside work on the ball fields. The highway department did a great job redoing the gravel roads in Myers Park for us, and widening the paved road in sections for walkers to walk down there. Planted another donation tree and just continue to do some cleanup, and we'll get ready to have that opened soon. Camping starts May.
So, does the board have any questions for Patrick?
Do the donation trees have little plaques in them, or not?
Yeah, most of them do. They're usually like a 6x12 plaque that's put in the mulching normally. Some of them have one on the tree. We have a few of those, but not very many. Most of them are in the mulching.
And where was that one planted?
That one was planted by the small playground, kind of over by Pavilion D in that area.
Anything else?
Looks like you got your money for your other trees.
Yes. Yep.
Nice.
Very happy about that. Yeah. We got a couple good grants this year.
Hopefully more. Kudos to your staff while you're gone, especially Owen Davis and also Dan Cheatham. My understanding was that the ball game was scheduled for 4 o'clock today, and we were playing
Noon. Moved to noon today.
so we had to do a little scrambling
Yeah, we got it done.
on top of the other activity that we have out there. So everything went without a hitch, I've been told. and
Very smoothly.
Very smoothly, so we have very good staff. So, you also want to talk about the banners now?
Oh, yes, banners, glad you brought that up. We've had some inquiry about putting banners on the outfield fence and the fence along 34. We've had these conversations in the past several times. It's something that you see at most ballparks. I think I sent you all an email. There would have to be some modification to the sign law in order for us to do that, but I think it would be a very good additional revenue stream for the department if we did do that.
How much money do you think the department would take in?
It depends on the number of banners, but I can see it anywhere up to $10,000, $12,000 pretty easily, and that's conservative.
It doesn't have any negative visibility.
I think if we control the banners, the font size, the logo size, I think it could be done tastefully.
Lynn, I'm going to take advantage while you're here. Can you chime in a little bit as far as the process goes? If we do decide to move forward with this, what needs to be done to tweak this? Because I believe the banners are already somewhat addressed in our sign law. This is an off-site premise sign. Is that what the sticking point is?
Banners are considered a sign, and any sign that has to do with a business that is not on that premises is considered an off-premises sign. So we would have to modify the law. You probably have to come up with conditions, because I think where he wants to put them, you're probably going to want to have certain sizes so they all look the same, tasteful. What has to be done right now, the signs would have to go through our department. It sounds like you're talking about doing them where there'd be a donation to the park, to the rec department. So we probably have to have all that language put in to our sign law. There's some changes that we need to make anyways to our sign law. So maybe it might be an opportunity to do it all at once. I could check, me and CJ could work on it and discuss it with Guy. work with Pat to see, you know, exactly what he wants and make it work.
I am concerned about the idea of making that fence look like a series of billboards.
So that's what you gotta be concerned, I mean, that's where it would be.
Yeah.
And the banners stay up the whole season.
We have discussed that they would probably be temporary, probably April 1st through maybe November 1st.
Like the old style used to be, you put them on the inside or just the outside?
Depends on who we got. That's, you know, we'd have to discuss that further. We have options.
How does the board feel about this? Do you want to at least start the process and see how the emails fly back and forth with comments?
Yeah, that's fine.
How does the board feel about that? At least want to start the process and see where this goes?
I have no problem.
It'd be nice to see some schematics of how it might look.
Okay. And then we have an interaction and comments and some input as far as how this goes. The thinking about this, and I know about when you have visuals and your eye catches it, next thing you know, from the old drawing head days, is that your car follows where your eyes go. And these would be far enough away so you wouldn't see them, you know, here's the phone number, here's the www.
Right, it would, if they're far enough away from the road, I don't think it would grab your attention. You know, 50 to 60% of drivers are texting anyway, so they would have to look up from the phone.
Trust me. Well, I do my horn a lot every day.
Yeah.
Get away from your phone.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's right.
It's green.
Yeah.
Who's
It's
the
a
intended
I
audience?
saw people doing it on 95 today at 80 miles an hour.
Who's the intended audience for these banners? Is the people at the park or is it the people driving by?
It's more for the people at the park, I would say. I don't, you know, there may be some road frontage that might be attractive to some vendors, you know, but I don't know how much, depending on parking, what's parked in front of them, there may not be a whole lot.
Now, when you
Well,
say
isn't it more for the just the support of the
Yeah, just, yeah,
community banner?
yeah, it's more of a fundraiser type thing for the.
Well, it's a fundraiser, but it's just the support of the community.
Yeah,
Basically.
yeah, it's a community.
I mean,
It's like playbill advertising for like.
Sure,
this would be for the ball fields up here, correct?
correct. Only.
Only.
We're not talking Myers, we're not talking anything, it's just the ball.
So there could be, you know, on this side here that doesn't really face out onto the street and serve the purpose and not look like a string billboard.
They could just be on the outfield fence too.
I just think it shows community support, period. You know, there's a lot of people that still support that.
And, you know, I'll come up with some, you know, some examples for you. I'll email to you so you can see them. And I'll try and get some that are local so you have an idea. And if you want to go take a look at it, you can do that.
I would like to see minimized information because everybody has access to the web to type in a name
Sure.
and get the rest of the information.
Mm-hmm.
So just a name, maybe a logo, just keep it simple and clean.
Okay.
The name, logo, and how to contact them.
That's
Yeah.
not even out of context.
Yeah,
That's so easy anymore, it's ridiculous.
Just Google, right?
right.
Yeah.
We're already making progress, that's great.
Okay.
So we have an action plan, 10-1, start the ball rolling, see where it evolves. Maybe Lynn, CJ, and Pat get together, bounce some ideas off, send it back out to the board, send it out to Guy when appropriate, back and forth, and see how this thing can go. I don't want to rush it, but I don't want this thing to stagnate also, especially with the season coming up. You may, let's say hypothetically, we get something done this year, maybe you cut your rates this year as a prototype, and then next year go at a full steam. Okay? Okay? A lot of times what we've done in the past with ArborFest is that when we had vendors, they usually get first refusal, which means if someone's going to get a high visible area, which is at a premium price, it's like a high visible area for a vendor, you would approach them first next year also. So so that they have first refusal. If they said no, yes, or didn't respond after a specific time, then you move on.
Okay.
That's just a small suggestion in the process. Okay?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, my friend, thank you. Glad you made it home safe.
Thank you.
Oh, hey, good evening, folks. Lots of things kind of getting started. Obviously, the annual brush pickup will be the week of April 29th. Things need to be out at 6 a.m. That's been advertised in the shopper in this weekend.
I get extra credit for having 9 hours.
Sure. So included with that, obviously, we do the entire village for those folks also with that. Just nice to give them that a little bit there too. So, other than that, obviously, most of you see we under motion on the pavilion, drainage and stuff out there in the parking lot. So hopefully the next couple of weeks that'll all be coming together. Like I say, other than that, just kind of trying to get motion with some, summer construction work. So doing what we can do between the raindrops right now and making everything else work. So that's about it. Just moving along. So.
Questions for Cricket? Thank you, by the way, for doing the blacktop out there so that people don't catch their toes.
Oh yes, well that'll be enhanced much more as we get drainage work and stuff going on here.
When's your blacktop season start? Right away, or?
So the plants, some of the plants are actually open now. Typically, we about the first, second week of May, we'll start doing some patchwork and stuff that, some of the winter beat-ups, like, what Joe drives through every day. So we've been trying to nurse that along, so that's one of the first things on the list. But typically, at the beginning of May, we start with some patchwork, and then just kind of depends on where everything falls in the schedule as far as, prep work for roads and things, drainage or cross culverts to be changed and things like that. So it kind of gets spread out over the summer. Obviously, the only unfortunate part is we've had the luxury the last, few years of some extra money, like earlier, winter recovery money through the state budget. Obviously, there's some extra projects that we've posted from it that we got reimbursed. Legislature and the Senate there, again, like I noted last month, they added their budget. Governor Cuomo didn't see it as a big deal, so he didn't put it in there. There's still some work going on. Maybe it could get added in June, but let's be honest, probably not. So I mean, that piece means to us is about $40,000 that we could do something with a half-mile road, but we probably won't see that. So I guess we'll suck it up and try to do a little more with less. So, but yeah.
My understanding is you're going to put drainage near the road bridge where that part of Santa Creek Road kind of fell apart.
Yeah. So I'm not sure whether spring kind of popped up there or what happened there, but we'll box that out and put a weaver drain in there.
Can you give me some advance notice so I can let people know on the road that there's going to be some reroute?
Yeah, absolutely. So like that's kind of a one-day project. So I mean, we've gotten much better with digital signs and things that we have. So I mean, if there's going to be any major disruption to a road for any length of time, I mean, like what we did down there before, we had the signs kind of set up.
Okay.
And just said, between these hours, starting whatever, the road will be closed and stuff. So we've really been trying to do a much better job at putting that information out there for the daily drivers and driving. So like I said, that project there alone, it's a one-day project, and so it shouldn't be too disruptive to folks. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
One of the things I recommend is that if you're concerned about that, which I know you are, is that maybe reach out to your neighbors and see if they can sign up for Swift 911. Because what a great opportunity for you to send out that message ahead of time.
Right.
And y'all can get it. Another way that we have gone out of our way to communicate, it's like our streaming of our meetings. When people say, I didn't know this, they can look on and watch it. Another way for us to communicate with our neighbors is Swift 911. And I'm probably going to mention this every meeting, Swift 911. And one of the things that we're doing is that if there's a test, we'll say this is a test. okay, that so-and-so road got washed out. It's a test, just to make sure people see it and they acknowledge it. But it might be something that we can try it. If there's any bugs in it, we can find out now as opposed to, OMG, here it is. So I think I'll leave it up to you to see how you want to handle that, but I say that to anybody who watches this video or that Swift 91 is up, and there is a way to go about and sign on to it. Patrick has availability to it. I think you and Mike Mosley do. Deb Munson does. So there's a way for us to communicate rapidly with our residents if they sign up. But they have to sign up.
Correct. So, yep.
Well, let's try it out with some minor projects like this to just let people know. And as people see, they get the information, don't tell their neighbors, it'll spread out through that as well.
Yep, no, absolutely, I know Ed's been, heavily promoting to people that, and it helps us a lot, because, I mean, if, there's a dangerous road situation arises from a water main break like that, at least it's 2 seconds to get the information out there, so, there again, if we could educate people to get signed up for that, then, absolutely great, so. And then, I guess the only final thing in passing, if you peek out this door here, the generator's actually set on the pad. It's scheduled, the electric work is scheduled for May 8th and 9th to be connected. We did some temporary wiring and stuff that's set up. We'll use our portable generator in the meantime to power the building. Hopefully one day does it, but that way there'll be minimal disruption to the folks here. We can switch that over at 7 a.m. Hopefully get stuff together. With any luck, by the end of the day, it'll be back on, and in the future, we'll have internet and phones all the time, right, Pat?
Yes.
So this will automatically kick on if the power cuts off?
Yep, it'll be set up with an automatic transfer switch, so if the power goes off, there's a minor delay for, maybe 15 seconds, and it fires up and powers the building right back up. So, obviously, the one we did in our barn is, with recent events over the last several months, has been, thank goodness, very helpful.
To continue on our path of emergency preparedness, one of the things I would like to recommend is that we get a list of buildings that are available in case their power's out for more than 5 hours. Let's say there's got to be an ice storm, where we're looking at, like upstate New York, we're looking at a week or two. Where do people go where it's safe? Now I'll lean on Katrina for this, because she's been the one that's been leading the charge with emergency preparedness. And it may be posted on the 911, posted in our newsletter, posted on our website that said these are the places you can go. I think in the past, the school's been open, so in case somebody's taking a shower, where else we can make it available to the public, so God forbid we have to have those type of emergency services to keep it safe. So going forward, they already have a list where the one closest to them. I don't know, Connie's not here tonight, I don't know if the fire companies run off that also. Maybe your brother can fill us on that. He's the police chief, or excuse me, he's the fire chief, to say, okay, where can people go? Can they go to the fire halls? Can they go someplace where it's safe in case we have a really bad, God forbid, a tornado or something hits?
I imagine that the fire hall would be a place where emergency procedures would be happening, so maybe not overlapping with citizens.
Yeah, or a source of where they can go. But those are things that we can post on a periodic basis, so people have them. Whether they act on it or not, it's going to be up to them.
No, I think it's great to have a list.
Every time there's a storm, I try to take advantage of, do you have 3 days of medication for you and your pet? Do you have food for you and your pet? Do you have somebody, a phone number where they can go ahead and contact you if they don't see you? All these things, the 2 doors up, 2 doors down philosophy, get to know your neighbors 2 doors up and 2 doors down, at least you follow. These are all things I keep telling people ad nauseum about, but these are all things because when it happens, what do I do? So, thank you.
Excellent, thank you.
Is our Director of Planning report. I'm looking forward to this one. This is CJ Randall, and CJ Randall is eventually our new full-time planner. That will happen, I think, for a few more weeks. Mike Long is in transition, he's transitioning, and as CJ says, I feel like the bull that eat the hippo. It's just all this information, but what I love about it is that she just wants to keep getting more and more. So, very impressed with how you've handled yourself so far. You're very professional. And I look forward to better and better success. And on that note, I'll let you take it from here.
Hi, good evening. Nice to formally meet you finally, the town board. I'm not sure the extent to which you want to hear kind of a little bit more detail on the actual planning department update that we send monthly. And I believe you also received Mike's report as well. There's a lot of as Ed was mentioning, transition at the moment. But we're working to kind of congeal that a little better for you heading into next month. So I started off the report by talking about core planning functions, right? So how much of our time is really spent on these critical pieces of interfacing with the public, interfacing with various developers, applicants, and their consultant team. And as you can see, it does obviously comprise quite a bit of time. But that said, with the additional availability that I'll have as being your full-time person, and I don't just see that as 40 hours and I'll see you. It's what it takes to get the work plan that you'd like to see accomplished done. To that end, I've sent you previously this week kind of a draft of that work plan, kind of these initial ideas of things you'd like to see completed, hopefully, in the coming year. Now, I've heard a bit from Joe about the environmental protection overlay districts. These are a really excellent tool that can be incorporated into zoning. We are currently working to just kind of step back. I see the use of spatial analysis, ArcGIS, and mapping software as a really core piece of being able to do this type of planning work, but also it's just a really wonderful tool to be able to look up parcel information, to learn more at a glance right away about what an applicant is talking about, or if a project is under consideration. And I'm doing my best to communicate to our planning boards and our planning board and zoning board of appeals these tools that are really right at their fingertips through the Tompkins County ImageMate and through some of these more easy, user-friendly kind of mapping tools. That said, I will essentially prepare a little bit of a packet of how much it would cost to really bring us up to speed on ArcGIS. The great news is that Patrick has been, I just want to give a huge shout out to Patrick because he keeps helping me every time I run into some computer snafu. He is helping me essentially configure our existing Office PC to be able to bring that up to speed for ArcGIS. And for anyone who's not familiar with it, it's just a way to display and process different types of spatial data. So any kind of different map you could want to create, we'll be able to do that in-house, which is super nice. I don't have to call Sharon Heller every hour or whatever and ask her to create another map. So that'll be nice. And I'm not sure how brief these are. I could go on and on, but I will not. But I'll just give you kind of a bit of an overview on a couple of things we've been working on. We've been working with the county on census designated places. This is an opportunity with the 2020 census coming up to actually identify different clusters of housing and commercial entities, and those actually get then designated as a place. So in the future, when we go to apply for grants, so for instance, South Lansing, right, that would be a census designated place. When we go to apply for money in the future, it's really great because then we can grab data just for that specific area. So that's been great. We've been working with Joan Jerkowitz at the county on that. As requested at your meeting last month, NexAmp, we prepared a pilot letter on behalf of the town supervisor, sent that to the IDA for the NexAmp pilot agreement, and also the letter for the inclusion of the Mattoon Farm into the Ag District did go to the Planning Advisory Board. I anticipate that will be passed on to the county legislature any minute. Also, our annual stormwater report is due. We're coordinating with Lynn, Angel Heinickel from Tompkins County Soil and Water, as well as Donnie Harner, who at TG Miller, who typically takes care of those for the town, from what I understand. And also, just be aware that NYSERDA is the State Energy Research and Development Authority, is currently offering a Clean Energy Action Plan. Not sure if you're familiar with the moratoriums, of course you are. But there's one downstate in Westchester County as well, in addition to Lansing. Those are the two areas in the state that are currently under a natural gas moratorium. And the State Energy Authority has responded to that by actually offering significant incentives for folks to get onto alternatives such as heat pumps. So more details are coming from them soon. Hopefully they'll come and do a presentation sometime in the end of May or early June. And to that end, I just want to let folks know that we are now, with every applicant that comes in for site plan review or any kind of discretionary review by the planning board, they're also receiving a pamphlet for the county's Business Energy Advisor Service. It's really fantastic. The energy planner at the county, Andrea, essentially assists people with hooking them up with free energy modeling for new buildings or major renovations. It's really a fantastic program. It's a win-win, because then any project going for review by the county that's subject to site plan, and they also tend to be larger buildings, will get energy modeling for free, which is fantastic, kind of a plus for everyone. So from there, I will not keep going on and on, but I just want to let you know that we are working with Patrick to set up a kind of a cloud sharing service so that Mike and I will be able to do a little bit more virtually, so that we're mindful of limiting significant expense to the town to be able to do simple things like that. And with that, I could keep going on and on, but
I just had a question.
yeah,
This
absolutely.
energy modeling,
Yes.
is that available for homeowners?
I believe it is also available for construction of new residences. Yeah, they have a threshold for the dollar amount that you can get towards the services. And it's obviously more for commercial buildings, but I'm fairly certain that it is available. But I'll double check to be sure, and I'll send you all the information.
Yeah, because for new home constructions in the town, that would be wonderful if people knew this.
And also, of course, there's the energy code, and if the town board wishes, of course, there are significant tax benefits that can be given to property owners who are willing to build to a certain LEED standard. The county has already adopted it, and maybe that's already done here, I'm not sure, but that's another opportunity as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I find it interesting, I'll share this with Cricket, she also has whiteboards in her office too. If you ever have a chance to go up to the highway superintendent's office, he has a variety of tasks. And I think CJ, maybe you two are cousins or something, because she also has more than one board on hers. I find this comical, like, where have I seen this before? So anyways, off to a good start.
Yeah, I'm excited about you getting GIS in the office, because I really don't. It's not just you're able to make maps, you're able to ask questions, you're able to put a dot and say how many houses are within a half a mile, or say, how many houses are along this road or along this stream, or, and you can ask questions and come up with answers really quickly. And,
I know you're enthusiasts.
I am totally enthused, and I want to help you get that forward any way we can. So if there's
Yes,
a stumbling block, come back to us.
Yes, thank you. That's
Well, one of the things I find useful is that, as we have already have experienced, that the 600 feet to affect someone really does not apply. It's not a one-size-fits-all. And one of the very small uses, but still very effective use, is to find out on a road, for instance, here is something that's going to be applied or proposed in a certain district for a certain business or something. How do we contact all those people? And what are we talking? You're talking about density, you're talking about lack of density. And sometimes, rather than have from 600 to 1,200 feet, maybe we can find out how many houses are there and find out all the addresses and contact that with a certain distance. Because if you're on one of these outlying roads, there are only maybe 5 houses on the whole road. And if you're affected, and we have through the Emmons Road, for instance, is a prime example, where the lack of density people were somewhat, I think, like I said, it's one small example how we can use these things for a variety of different tools. The other thing I found interesting is that be less paper maps, right? Be less paper maps and be more of the maps. We have like screens. We can pop up here right now. We've seen it at the last planning board meeting where you could actually find out how much traffic was going on these roads during the meeting. It was absolutely phenomenal, the amount of data you could bring up automatically as we're going from one subject to another. Extremely helpful.
As long as I can get live time, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
So as you're saying, you can put a dot here, put a half-mile circle, and she can generate a list of addresses.
There you go.
From that.
Sure. ArcGIS Pro actually has a nice extension you can get to be able to automatically export that, and it works with the county's parcel data. So, yeah, I consider it kind of an indispensable tool for modern planning, really. But we'll get there one day at a time.
And I like the idea of at a planning board meeting, being able to put the maps up on the wall, so not just the planners can see it, but the whole audience can see what you're talking about, and you can actually make changes in real time. So you can say, well, what happens if we make this adjustment or this change? People can see it and think about it, feel it instead of doing it abstractly.
Yeah, and to that end also we're working on, actually we've been working with the clerks who have been super amazing about trying to help us understand the laser, or help me understand how our laser feed system works, and also being able to post the materials to the public facing way so that folks can actually see everything before the meeting. And so we're trying to get organized on that front, and so I think we'll have some good development on that too. Thank you very much.
Thank you. On our next item, 13, this is our planning consultant report with Mike Long. And I want to again thank Patrick for working out the solution to link everybody together, because in the future Michael will be home, but he'll have his computer in front of him and there'll be a conference call and we can talk back and forth to them as opposed to having him here. Not that I want him here, but I think there's an excellent way to share information as we make that transition. So thank you again, Patrick, for that. The engineer's report, I think, is the next one. David Eric, he has nothing to report in its entirety. There's a lot of moving parts going on right now, but nothing definite. For instance, the map plan report for the sewer, that's not completed yet, otherwise that would be on the agenda. That will be going forth to our next Water and Sewer Advisory Board meeting on the 1st of May. They will make the determination if they can move it on to the town board or not.
This is the Warren Road?
Warren Road,
Warren Road,
yes,
yes,
it's the DOT,
yes.
Yes, exactly right. And so there are things going on, just nothing definite. I'll touch on some bases later just briefly as far as that goes. The Ag Committee report, that is something that we did meet with the farmers again. We met at Crossroads. Thank you, Jay, for such a buffet. And spread the morning, nothing against Linda, but Linda's is still out of commission. So this is, I think, the last meeting we have until October, but that doesn't mean that this revolves around the solar law, basically. Okay, is what the main concern is. I think they pretty well have established the ag district, unless I'm wrong, but they should still have a little bit of time to jump in on that. But we need to move this solar law because we still have time. We still need to have a fresh set of eyes. We still have a fresh set of eyes from our attorney also. There's still a process to go forward. And later's now for a lot of it. And if I said this once, I've said it 10 times. It's your land, gentlemen and ladies. What do you want done with it?
Well, can we have CJ starting to go over it and do some adjustments? I know you want to look at it before we move forward, obviously.
Sure.
But let's get the ball rolling.
Bring on another hippo. But no, you're absolutely right to at least start the process. And I'll leave it up to your discretion because you're still moving stuff off. You're still moving off her plate from other responsibilities. Well, go ahead.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just as kind of a recap, it was in the report, but on April 4th we met with the Ag Committee and we discussed a number of issues that could come up in site plan review or items that the planning board could be tasked with evaluating during site plan review. And we got into some questions also about there is some language in there about battery energy storage systems, but it wasn't fully fleshed out, I don't believe, so that's something that I would also want to look at. NYSERDA actually recently held a webinar for municipalities to incorporate some of those into their local laws. So that could be a nice way to boost that. But it really comes down to the question of whether the Ag Committee feels comfortable with leaving the decision of siting solar energy facilities on prime soils. You probably have heard this conversation quite a bit already, but Monica Roth, CCE, and so supposedly she's retired, but it's probably not ever happening, but has made some suggestions about different maps that we can show. So I have to, I've actually asked Sharon Heller at County GIS for that data in the interim until we're, really more up to speed on GIS here. So, because it's going to take a little while to assemble all the data layers we need, so I'm going to continue to rely on her. So we should have some maps and also a scope of work for that particular project. I wasn't able to locate a scope of work or a schedule of adoption for that, and I find that sometimes when we start doing a revision of the local law like that, sometimes it can get nebulous if we don't really set more of a timeline and kind of public and be clear about public information sessions, kind of right off the bat, because then we can prepare for them, we can make nice presentations, and have snacks and stuff, all ways to rope them in. But nevertheless, so that is definitely on my radar, and so we should be making good progress with that, hopefully soon after I can get this planning board agenda off my plate, because, man, when Sue Munson goes on vacation, whew.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing, you've been down one, haven't you? All week she's on vacation, so.
Yeah, and she's really, obviously, a huge part of our team, and so she's much appreciated.
Well, I have to say, the planning board handed the town board that draft a year ago, so we really ought to get moving on it.
I see, yes, all right, well, good times.
I understand the part-time, let's just start the process if we can.
Understood.
Which is the motion authorizing Town of Lansing supervisor to sign Lansing Youth Service 2019 agreement. Town of Lansing.
I'll move that. I'll second it.
Any further discussion?
You want to describe it for the audience, please?
This is something we do every year. Andre, you want to jump in on this since you like to use service? This is a shared service that we do in the contract, I believe.
Right.
So it's some of the money we give them. It's a partnership, basically, what it is. And what it does, correct me if I'm wrong, is that we find jobs, or the coordinator finds jobs for people to do, but also it pays for part of the salary, I believe, of the coordinator. Is that correct?
That's right, yeah. The money, most of the money comes from the town, but we also get county money and state money. Yeah. So you have to have a contract.
Okay. Any further discussion? Ms. Munson?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Item number 17, resolution accepting dedication of Smokers Path extension. This is Nova Lane. This is the one since, let's see, 1986 was when this first started. And I'm going to give you some kudos here, my friend, because you're in them. Cricket was the one that sat down with our engineer and with Jack Young and with Guy and myself, and we came up with a plan to basically connect the road. That road was supposed to be done with someone else, and they moved away, and that money was not saved for that, not throwing stones, just telling you what it was. And they came up with a plan where the new owner gave the money to do the road, the material, and the town built it, and at the end of the day, it's done. Right, 30 years later. And they say government doesn't move fast. So having said that, is there any other comments you want to make to this?
No.
Real good?
Happy to get signed on and let people have it.
Okay, this is one again, is that there's road dedication, it has to meet your approval before it moves forward, otherwise it doesn't get dedicated.
Yeah, no, I can certainly put forth a recommendation to the board to approve it as built. Good to go. Guy confirmed that we got all the right title work and all that stuff, so.
Good.
As long as he's happy on that end, I'm happy on mine.
I have a
This
motion.
resolution.
Okay, do you have a second? Second. Any further discussion?
I think if the road is open for use now.
It will be tomorrow morning.
It'll be probably about 3 minutes. Okay, any other further discussion? If not, Mrs. Munson?
Andrew Benson.
Yes.
Katrina Binkowitz.
Yes.
Doug Date.
Yes.
Joseph Wetmore. Edward Levine.
Yes. Item number 18, resolution authorizing execution of concession license and agreement for non-motorized watercraft at Myers Park. Patrick, since we're paying for this, we want to have some input on this also.
Just our agreement with Paddle and More, they do a great job, bring a lot of public to the park. Use very good comments, as long as guys happy, I'm happy, so.
There you go. And the town gets a piece of the action,
The
right?
town is a very nice piece of the action, yes, sir.
Another revenue stream.
Yes.
Excellent. I did bump into, is it Jennifer Wells?
Yes.
She was ecstatic, by the way, Cricket, that the creek was going to be dredged, when she heard about that, so.
She's so excited.
The tingle hasn't faded yet, absolutely. Okay, I have a motion to move this forward. Okay, I have a motion from.
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have Joe and a second from Katrina. Any further discussion? Mrs. Munson?
Andrew Benson.
Yes.
Katrina Binkowitz.
Yes.
Doug Date.
Yes.
Joseph Wetmore.
Yes.
Edward Levine.
Yes. Item number 19, resolution upgrading employees' positions and job classifications for full-time motor equipment operators.
I'll move that.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Munson?
Andrew Benson.
Yes.
Katrina Binkowitz.
Yes.
Doug Date.
Yes.
Joseph Wetmore.
Yes.
Edward Levine.
Yes. Item 20, resolution upgrading deputy clerk and deputy receiver taxes.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Munson?
Andrew Benson.
Yes.
Katrina Binkowitz.
Yes.
Doug Date.
Yes.
Joseph Wetmore.
Yes.
Edward Levine.
Yes. Item 21, resolution, everybody hear me okay? I don't want to fade here. Resolution, item 21, resolution updating employee Owen Davis's position and job classification for full-time motor equipment operator. He is the one that was the intern over in the rec department. And nice thing about interns, having dealt with them in my field, is that you get an idea of what they're about, or what they're not about. And so this was a recommendation from Pat. So,
I'll make that motion.
okay.
I'll second it.
Okay, so we got,
I didn't hear that. Was Joe, did you second it?
we got two buzzes over here, so it doesn't matter.
I got Katrina. That made the motion. Is that correct?
That's fine, yeah.
We'll bang through for later, Joe. Okay, any further discussion? Mrs. Munson?
Andrew Benson.
Yes.
Katrina Binkowitz.
Yes.
Doug Date.
Yes.
Joseph Wetmore.
Yes.
Edward Levine.
Yes. Item 22, resolution authorizing sale of Town Center Parcel D to Hesse Homes LLC, Salt Point Brewery.
I will move that.
Second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to have Pat come up and talk about the potential trails that are going through it. I didn't have a chance to really go over that with you. You said there might be something going through it right now?
There are currently trails there, they can be modified or changed, I mean, it's a fluid sort of thing, so obviously we modified the trails for the other development, so, you know, it's just one of those things that they can change.
Can that be part of the plan?
That can be part of the plan.
Well, right now, the agreement that I saw doesn't say anything about us reserving any kind of trails on the
Right.
property.
I would insert the same clause that we put in Cornerstone about preservation of the trails in this contract. They've agreed to keep the trails.
Okay.
That's why they want that spot, is because they plan to have, part of their marketing is to service the trails, but the trails were structured as rights of way so they can be moved, and the loss of a location wouldn't create a dead end in the trail.
Yeah,
So I would put that clause in it, and as amended, then maybe approve it.
yeah, I would like to see that clause in it, because
I
that's very
agree.
important to me.
So I called Chris, they're in Arizona. They're about to go for a walk on a path. I can't make this up. So I said, so let me understand this. Are you in favor of this? He goes, absolutely.
Going to.
So just imagine you go there and you have a nice dinner, an adult beverage, whatever, and you go for a walk on a beautiful trail. I mean, talk about win-win. And if everyone knows what parcel D is, just go out there and that massive mound of dirt that's right there. Kind of like Salt Point was at one time. We didn't move it up there, that's something different. That was an agreement with Cornerstone to move their dirt over only after they surveyed it to see what the wetlands was on their dime. TES did all the mapping for that, so we know exactly where the wetland is. So that will be preserved. That'll fall under wetland. So now you have wetland, you have a path, and you have a nice little business there that actually wants to relocate from down the road. And I think to use your analogy, Katrina, it is the anchor of our business district. It'll be huge. And to see what the impact of businesses do,
Isn't it huge?
huge,
Huge.
huge,
Not huge.
huge. Gets big. So anyways, just to show you what impact does, Lansing Market is very happy that the workers are working over at Cornerstone because they've had very good sales the last few lunches. If you, and just as a segue, if you want to order your sub, you better do it ahead of time, like at 11 o'clock, because there's a waiting line. So I'll show that in there. So anyways, enough of that.
Ed,
Yes.
so you're talking about a restaurant and an expanded brewery on Monte.
Correct.
Yes.
So it's
So a bigger thing than just the tasting.
just imagine, was it Ithaca Beer Company? Something similar to that. It may have events over there also. It might have something to do with land over here, over there. I mean, so they're expanding. They've outgrown their space, and they don't know what the future is over there. Certainly, they're not to buy it, that area. And they were desperate looking for a spot, and they came to us. And by the way, it's $75,000 for about 3 acres. So it's about 25,000 acres. So let's put this in perspective. They have roughly 5.4 acres, and a little bit over 2 of those acres are just wetlands. So I think it's overall, especially with them willing, right, my friend? Because Chris's partner's right there also. And anyway, so having said that, I think it's a good fit overall. But there's a month in case people want to object to it. As with any sale of town land, we've got to be respectful of that also. So I think we have a motion and a second.
Well, I want to understand, make sure that the trail thing goes in. Should that go into this motion here, or is it just going to go into the agreement? Because that's critical for me.
I wanted to do it the right way. So, the right way. Whichever way Guy advises us. If it's similar to Cornerstone, it should have the same language. We can use that as a template for the future.
Yes. I don't want to lose any of those trails. They're well loved by the town.
Well, and they're well maintained. I mean, you gotta love the fact that volunteers take care of them. I love volunteers, you know that.
So we'll move the resolution with the addition of the clause.
Yeah, so if you just add, where it says, subject to negotiation and approval in the final form of the town supervisor who shall insert a trail right-of-way preservation clause.
You okay?
So, public access, right?
What's that?
That ensures public access?
Yes. Yeah, there's actually an adopted town center trail policy that we put those trails into the public trust.
Excellent, okay, thank you.
You okay on this side? You okay on this side? That's a good point. Appreciate it. I'm waiting for her. She writes stuff down. Waiting for her to give me a heads up because
Sorry.
I got made aware last time that I was moving too fast in some days. So since I was made aware of that, I won't make that huge mistake.
Never need to add in.
Okay, take the time to do it right.
Mrs. Munson?
Andrew Benson?
Yes.
Katrina Binkowitz?
Yes.
Doug Day?
Yes.
Joseph Wetmore?
Yes.
Edward Levine?
Yes.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Munson?
Andrew Benson?
Yes.
Katrina Binkowitz?
Yes.
Doug Day?
Yes.
Joseph Wetmore?
Yes.
Edward Levine?
Yes. Board member reports, and I'm going to challenge myself. Let's keep everything to 3 minutes each. Okay? Either talk fast or just give us the Reader's Digest Press version.
Okay, I talked about the library and the Lansing services. An exciting thing that's happening is with the new CEO of the hospital, they have finally made a board with doctors on it, lots of lay people, patient-type people, and so I'm going to be Lansing's representative on this board. We're meeting next Tuesday for the very first time, and I'm pretty excited about it because unfortunately our families had a lot of experience at the hospital. And so I think it's going to be very good. And I don't know if other town boards around have people on it, but I think they're going to listen to the community. And I think that's very good.
Excellent. Hey, Joe.
I'd like to take my 3 minutes to talk about the Cuba Power Plant because I too am really concerned about the truck traffic that's being proposed for our community. And especially going past our schools really concerns me, and I feel concerns from other people in the community too. And I think we really have to start a discussion as to whether or not the town is going to say that they have concern over this truck traffic.
I agree with Joe. I think there's a concern that we should do something.
Okay, anything else?
I'll keep it short for tonight.
Good for you. Doug? Okay.
As far as the last planning board, going to that, we had a small minor subdivision with a public hearing, which was no comment. The seeker was instituted. The State Environmental Quality Review Act was a minor subdivision. It was a negative declaration, and it was passed. There was a lot line adjustment. The seeker was also implied or used. Negative declaration and passed. Getting on to the New York State Department of Transportation residency by the airport. We were given a lot of information on that. There was an assurance from the state on buffers to the north and east. The fuel was to remain on site for the time until it can move to the airport when available. And the airport now is going through sizable renovation, adding to the terminal size and whatnot, so I imagine that'll be a year or so away. Personally, and I think I share this sentiment with a couple different planning board members, I believe this got kind of shoved down the throats of Lansing, village of Lansing, and the residents of the area. I really do. The state can do what they want evidently, and without really any recourse, and that bothers me a lot of it. So anyway, moving on. Lansing Renewables, I think CJ mentioned it a little bit with Nexam. Went through the seeker long form with a negative declaration. They also have future plans of lithium-ion storage or battery storage there. I think CJ mentioned that as well tonight. Interesting to see what that brings. Other than that, not much. We'll see how it goes. I mean, solar there seems to be a good fit. We'll see what happens with that. The big project now, at least at the planning board level, is the Osmecia or Osmeca. I'm not sure how that's pronounced. That once again went through a long-form seeker review, even though it wasn't required. That bothers me a little bit. I know it was meant to vet the process as much as possible. However, it didn't meet the regulations or the size to have a long-form seeker. Other than that, it's an allowed use in that area. I know people are very upset about it. And unfortunately, I don't see how this ends in a great way, but we'll see how it ends. And I think they've come to, at least some of the residents have come to know the fact that it is an allowed use. And I actually talked to several of the residents afterwards, not only at the last meeting, but the meeting before, with in regard to, am I over my 3 minutes?
No, you give some news.
Go ahead, yeah. You were very short.
You're usually really quiet. This is cool.
We switch seats.
There you go.
I don't look good. So anyway, I talked with several of the people about and really how they can change this process and how they can involve themselves. And at this point, our laws are still 2003. And, you know, some of this might have been taken care of with the addition of the comprehensive plan and new laws that go into place for land use. So, you know, I encourage them to start joining the process. Come and show up, voice your opinion. I mean, it's not for your property and your backyard, it's for our town and our backyard. So, I mean, it's got to be more of a collective thing. And that's the frustrating part about this. But anyway, that's all I have at this point.
Are you sure?
I can use another 10 minutes, but I won't. Thank you.
Katrina.
I don't have a lot to talk about. I had some traveling that got in the way of attending meetings. I did want to acknowledge what a great job the Highway Department, Parks and Rec worked together on that dredge pile becoming a mountain and then disappearing in almost overnight. And there's a lot of concerned people who visit Salt Point, and they didn't even have time to get hot under the collar before it was all gone and graded and seeded. So thank you for doing that. I did complete the initial soil samples in all the sediment for lead testing, and they're at the lab, and I expect another couple of weeks before we get the results, and I'll try to put it in some coherent form and consult with people who can help do that, and we'll discuss it.
Excellent.
Thank you for doing the work on that. I know it was a lot of work to collect those samples and bring them up to the lab.
More than I thought, but yeah.
Guy, do you have any?
No, I'm just going to tell you that, as you know, but we're working on updating the intermunicipal sewer agreement between Village of Lansing, Village of Cuba Heights, and the town, since we have other districts. And we received a number of comments from Village of Cuba Heights, only 2 of which actually we had to do a little bit of work for, but I think it's in final form and they indicate they're ready to go. So that will probably come before the board in relatively short order, so you can be familiar with it in case it's ready for approval next month. It's not anything new, it's an existing policy, we're just updating it because we have the Sewer District 1 and because we have Cherry Road District and Warren Road District and now potentially an extension of the Warren Road District, so we had to work with the villages to make sure that we had the capacity for service.
Excellent. Mrs. Munson?
I do have a couple things today. I just wanted to give you a quick summary on the collection of the town taxes. Well, town and county collect for both. So our warrant for 2019 was a total of almost 14 million, of which 4 million comes to the directly to the town, and 9,700,000 roughly goes back to the county. And we are now done collecting at the town level. Everything has now been turned over to the county for them to collect whatever's left. But we did collect 12,800,000 in our little office over there. And that was a total of 4,900 payments that were paid. 114 bills were unpaid that we turned back to the county. So just to give you that little update. And, well, I was going to say as soon as the tax is finished, but really it was before the tax is finished, we started a dog enumeration, which even hiring somebody to go knock on the doors is just an unbelievable amount of work for our office. And so just a little update on that. In March, we licensed 64 new dogs, and that was a total of the license fee and the enumeration fee. So the amount that the town will keep is $1,659. And in April to date, so we're only about halfway through April, we've already licensed 90 new dogs. And that town total is 2,658, so we have licensed a total of 154 dogs, and the total is $4,300. And there's a lot of dogs still coming in. They get a personal visit, they get a letter from our office. If they don't come then it will go to the ticket process, so. There's a lot, he hasn't finished all the roads yet either, so there's still a lot more coming in.
People like dogs.
People like dogs and they don't want to license them, really, is what dogs do.
Nobody wants to spend money buying.
Right. Right.
So at some point, we're going to revisit this, and Joe brought this up before about the reserve, I think, for the, once we get a handle on how much we're paying for this, where can that money be moved to? But once again, it'd be a good idea, and actually a teachable moment for us to see how you move reserve money around. But now that we've had a full another year over here, let's have a serious discussion, probably before the budget, as far as what money needs to be allocated elsewhere, as what needs to stay there. I have a long list of stuff here, but I'm not going to talk about any of that tonight. I'm going to talk to Diane Beckman. Thank you. And the rest of you can listen in if you want to, it's up to you. But thank you. Thank you for stepping forward and proposing the idea of working together, especially for solar. Thank you. I have a picture in my office I'll be happy to show you of 2 years ago. We all got together trying to refire that plant with solar. That was 2 years ago. If we're so green, what's holding us up? I mean, this is a perfect idea to go from a coal-fired plant to solar. Now, I'll share a vision with you that I have. Wouldn't it be nice that the 453 acres, approximately, of what the power plant has, which is about 200 of those actually can be used for solar panels, and that 18 megawatts would take up roughly 75 acres. And they've been waiting for their grants, and the problem is they didn't have enough customers, amongst other things. I'd love to have Jerry Goodenow come here, form a committee, how to repower Lansing with solar power. Let's just take it one step further. There's 480 acres next door from Iberdrola, I think, when we talk about the state park, they have 500 acres. Wouldn't it be nice if the power company could buy that land, use the flat land for their solar panels, and donate the rest of our park? You'd have the wooded park in front with the shore that would be protected. The rest of it, you could have the biggest solar panel farm capacity, whatever you want, array in the Northeast. And it would come from New York. You set the stage for the batteries. You set the stage for as the solar panels become more efficient. As you set the stage so that your calculators, which run off the sunlight, when eventually that'll happen. And it will happen because there's money to be made in it. But wouldn't it be nice, I'm sharing this vision with you, and the rest of you can jump in later after the meeting if you want to talk about this. But the bottom line, give them a reason not to go with natural gas. And they've been looking forward to it. They haven't said anything to me about going forward with this project. But I want to take this project off the table, and you do it by giving them a reason not to, which is we're making so much money on solar. Why would we even go there? Just imagine all the momentum they would have to being the poster boy of how you do these things. Whether that's a political thing for people who have higher aspirations, God bless them with that. I mean, at this level, it's enough torture, right? Go up at that level. But if they want to go for that and use that as a centerpiece, I don't care. What I care about is how Lansing can get clean, renewable energy, and by doing it, by getting that plant fired up with solar. So I'm more than happy to work with you on that. To back up a bit, though, we all have noble ideas, but we're limited by interstate laws, we're limited by other laws. You can condemn, you can do whatever you want. But that, to me, rather than prevent, I'd rather create. And create an environment of prosperity where they say, you know what, this is what they do in Colorado. I'm sorry, I can go over here. This is what they do in Colorado. So John, don't move your head again. Okay. But they have more sunlight out there. But wouldn't it be nice to be able to show them, okay, as you do these steps, look what Nexamp is doing. Wouldn't it be nice to have these people sit there and say, you know, that's, correct me if I'm wrong, 2.4 megawatts, I think is what they're doing on their land, which is up on, help me out, Pat, is it Davis Rose originally? Jerry Smith, thank you. So they're doing a small one. Wouldn't it be nice to put all those in one area where for the ones who see these are unsightly, they're protected from visual. They're in one area where the transmission lines, if you do the overlays from here's the available land, here's your phase 3 power, those options decrease in a hurry, which is one of the reasons why the farmers are concerned. But some it's self-limiting because they don't have 3-phase power in a lot of area. But this transmission line is right there for them, waiting to go to something. That I would get behind 100% on, and that I would, whatever you need to get this thing fired up with solar. If you want to meet with Jerry, you can meet privately with him, or I will meet with you. We can bring our planner with him. We can bring whoever wants to come and do it in a positive way, how we work together as a community to transfer over from coal to renewable energy. So I'll leave you with that. That's about 3 minutes. Yeah, we can take a break right now. We're going to do like a 5 or 10 minute break to...
Well, and most of the board, I'll just talk for myself, but I think most of us agree with that. We would love to see a solar farm there. And I don't know why there's not pushing it at all. But, yeah.
Well, and to their point, there may be obstacles that the town or the county... I talked to Irene Weiser about this when we had our microgrid meeting. I'll mention that next month. I don't want to take up any more of that. But she's 100% behind this. So I told her, Irene, if you're not behind this, tell me right now, and we'll park friends. It's okay. But she's no 100% behind this. Would it be nice to get the full thrust of the county behind this also to say, okay, here we are. Okay, this is how you do it, converting these power plants into another form of power. Oh, by the way, there is also a value for that, which means you have a pilot program, which means you have more money coming into the Lansing community also. Wouldn't that be nice for once we would benefit from this as opposed to everything on the chin? So these are all pluses that I look forward to creating an environment of cooperation and positive results. Go ahead.
Just so you know, there is information about the Holyoke power plant that was converted to solar, and there is a group moving to get that group to come here and do a presentation in Lansing about how that Holyoke coal plant was converted to a solar plant.
I'm all over it.
Where,
However you do
is that in
it.
our state or is that Massachusetts?
It's in Holyoke, Massachusetts.
Massachusetts.
Yes.
But the technology doesn't change, right?
No, but it was a coal plant, and they worked with the owners and did the whole thing and converted it to a wind solar.
As I tell other people who have positive vibes like you do, I look forward to the positive results we'll have from this relationship.
It's an amazing story that very much parallels Lansing, and I look forward to bringing that presentation here and whatever I can do to help with that, you know, in terms of helping with space and stuff here in Lansing. Let's get that forward, and I hope a lot of the board members can come and listen to what happens somewhere else, because let's do it here at work.
Can you tape it?
Sure.
Ted, can you tape this?
Probably.
Okay.
Assuming you're available. We'll set it up.
If we need to form a subcommittee to help this move along faster, work on your own, that's fine. I just want to get the ball rolling on all this. And now,
We can do it in this room, date dependent.
of course, CJ's just swallowed the third hippo. Yep. I'm sorry. All right, now we'll take a break. We'll take a break. We can meet afterwards, okay? We'll take a 5 to 7 minute break. I'm always happy. It's a good thing. A lot
And
worse
you
than
can
this.
read your line immediately, it's not bad. Systemic statement.
Amen. Okay. I guess we'll get on to the work session. First thing on the list is the accessible doors. We want to talk about that a little bit, and before we discuss that, I'll use it as a segue to go into allocation of monies. My understanding is, and I talked with Joe today about this also, about allocation of monies. If we over-allocate, we also try to be very sensitive to people that have to do book work, like Debbie Munson was in the past, or in the future, our bookkeeper, Charmaine. And my understanding is if you over-allocate, you don't have to do another resolution, another whatever. So these are things when we have these discussions, if you want to allocate the money ahead of time, we just have to make sure that the estimate is high. And talking about the doors, we have different dynamics here. This is where I want your input also, Doug. As I said before, the sliders are a bit more expensive than the ones that open up this way, correct?
Yeah, I look at it two different ways. I look at it retrofitting what is there existing and having one leaf swing open so it have a full hinge. And then they would put a panic button outside, inside on both doors. That quote, those quotes range from $13,000 to $15,500. There's another option that you could do. You could put sliders on what is there, but all you're doing is doing a lot of buildup, and we're not going to be happy with that, so I never even got a quote with that. To me, it's just going to be a con job. So then I looked at it with taking the whole frame out, the whole window wall, down, and putting sliders in. That was considerably higher. That price was almost $44,000, and that didn't count patching and repairing the drywall and the driveway. And the other thing with that is that front doors would basically be out of operation for, they said at least 30 days. I'm looking at probably 60 days. Because what would happen is they got to do one at a time. So we'd have to have somebody come in, cut everything out, then they'd come in, take the one frame out so we could still lock the front door, install that one, and then once that one's in and in service, then we'd go and move to the outside and do the same thing. So obviously when we're doing that, we can't use that, so we'd have to come around this side door over here because it's still handicap accessible. So if you chose that option, or we got sealed bids or whatever you have to do for that, you would want to plan on having the doors, we'd have to have detour signs just so everybody's coming around and things of that nature. I got them on the bathrooms also. The bathrooms range roughly for the two public bathrooms between $4,300 and $5,000, and that was per pair, so it's about $2,500 per door.
So these two down here, would be these two over here also for
Just the two public ones.
So what's the suggestion from Jeff about front door?
I heard about that the other day. My personal feeling is that's probably the easiest door to get in this building. And my other suggestion on that would be is last year we spent $6,000 or $7,000 to secure the inside of that, so that door can be left open. Just like ours is all day long, just like the supervisor's is all day long. There's a possibility that if handicapped people are having an issue, we could always cut a hole inside and put a window in for them on the side. There's also the possibility of taking her door out and moving it down our hallway if she was concerned about having it locked during court. But then you have closures on the two doors going down the hallway, which is also going to require same thing. So now you're looking at another $5,000 there.
Is there a reason not to leave it open?
It's extremely noisy,
That's
extremely,
So that's
and
the-
when you're working at your desk, if you don't hear the door open, you have no idea that anyone is coming.
Well,
I
the
like
glass should have cut down on a lot of that noise. You're only got 2 feet above it. But
I
that's-
like the idea of a window with a lower sort of desk, so if someone comes in with a wheelchair, they can come up to the window.
When the building was built, they should have had an area in the town clerks, just like the court clerks, where you had the high for the normal and the handicap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that wasn't done, and how they got away with it, I have no idea back in the 90s. But
Because then you could also close, the window could be closed, so you don't have to hear the noise, and it's only when someone comes and has
Correct.
to use that particular window,
there's, my thought on that is on this side, on the other side of their countertop, there's a makeshift counter in there where that, we put that in 8 years ago. I thought maybe right there, if they could work without that space, or you could put one right in there, pretty simple. And then that way they could still work off from the counter that they're in and just, it's right there.
Could we have one where, like the court has, you walk up, roll up, whatever, right outside, come right out here in the lobby? You know?
Yeah, that's what we're talking
about.
Right, when you talk about the window, you talk about a window with the access.
Actually, where that seating or.
Right where those seats are, just
Yeah.
about where I'm thinking, yeah. So
I-
see under that, that'd be that first bulletin board next to their door.
I'd like to hear Debbie's thoughts on this, if it's her office.
Well, when we were talking about before, a year ago, about putting the glass up, there was talk about, there was a couple other plans before we ended up with the glass the way it is. And one of the plans was to put an opening in this wall right out here. And we ended up, the more we talked about it, we ended up not liking that plan because, again, you've got your window right there that everybody is walking by all the time for distractions. I mean, there's a lot of traffic in this hallway.
But I think if somehow you could put a shade down and only the people who really have to use it would have to ring a bell and then you.
That would be
open it up.
fine. That
See,
would.
so that's not, that's my problem.
Or you could put an intercom
All the
there.
time.
Do what?
You could put an intercom there next to it, you
Yeah,
know, or
yeah,
somebody
so
that
that the
says,
person who comes with the
Hello.
wheelchair could say, I want to be served here.
I mean, if you could have a shade, that would be great. Otherwise, you have people that are
Right.
potentially staring in the window like,
Right.
honestly, right at your desk where you're trying to work.
What about if you just, and next to the button, you'd have a handicap
No,
sign
whatever.
for handicap.
So we couldn't see it until they.
That's
went
fine.
on.
Otherwise,
That
you
would be
gotta go
fine.
in.
I mean, that email that I sent was, that poor man that was trying to get in my
That's just
office
awful.
was just awful. And he's coming in to get an accessible parking pass and he can't even get in the office.
I think it was a teachable moment. Let's go for a trial run. This isn't working, I mean, it was better.
And we
I
had
get it.
and we had a wheelchair yesterday,
Yes.
and the guy ended up backing out of the office. And so I said to Jesse, well, we need to get one of these benches out of here, because he couldn't even.
Turn around.
He couldn't turn around to get back out of the office. Unfortunately, he had somebody with him, but still, it's like, this is not real helpful.
you don't have the turning radius.
What?
You don't have the turning radius.
Yeah, but the
Right.
counter height was an issue with him as well. Obviously,
Yeah.
that was a noticeable, for him, it wasn't the right height.
But they're different size
See,
motorized
yes.
transports too, so out here, there'd be plenty of room.
That's right.
You're
Right,
not access
right.
to the window.
Right.
Yeah.
These, I mean, this is fine, except we're still talking about the front door.
Right.
Well, I think we're doing all of it.
No, we're thinking about
Right,
the thing.
so, well,
I think the front
you're
doors
right, however, the front doors
are
are
more
$45,000.
important.
Yeah, these people have to get through that front door before they
Right.
get in.
I
So,
think the
I'm
front
not
doors
I'm not
will do
throwing
something
stones
to
and I'm
the
not
front.
throwing anything, I'm just saying,
You have to get
the
through.
entrance, I think at this point was originally the talk, and actually we talked originally about the restrooms as well. So,
I
But I think
agree.
it's good
we're not
to
going
wrap-
there, I think we talk about the entrance and then we can move to the other spots personally. And I'm not throwing stones at anything else other than, I assume this is accessible door entrances because we've been talking about that for quite some time.
So Lynn, there's enough room if you have, you press the button outside and the door opens. And then you'd have to press another one for the second door.
Right, what's gonna happen is if you come in, you're gonna have one out on the brick on the side of the building. They're gonna hit that one, the door will swing open, they're gonna get inside, and we're gonna have to move all that table and stuff, that can't be there.
Sure.
You're gonna hit another button for that to open up, then you're gonna get inside, you're gonna go through the same process going out.
Sure.
And then everybody's gotta remember that there's a toggle switch, so at night, we've gotta lock that differently, otherwise people have access to the building.
So Lynn, back to what's the best solution here? I would think would be reconfiguring both the front and both the doors of the vestibule.
As in-
Reconfiguring as sliders.
Hmm.
Would reconfiguring those as sliders be the best option?
I don't wanna answer that question, I'm gonna leave it up to you guys.
No, but I
We
mean,
know what's
no.
the cheapest
No,
solution,
it's
but
not
we want
that.
to know
It's-
what's the most
The
functional.
best option
Is
Yeah.
that,
is the expensive option.
Yeah.
right, so I mean, we're talking about taking apart the entire glass wall, not putting any bulkheads in the sheetrock, keeping that open look and letting them
You
slide.
would have the windows in there, and I talked in, like, I asked them what they did, is they designed, and I only got one bid on that part. I'm just to give you a rough idea what it would be. You would go in there and they would build a beam out of that, you know, that aluminum, that steel, to carry the load, because now you don't have the sides of the door to support that. And then we'd still do the window wall up top, the thing and everything. But you do have to understand, it's going to be on an electronic eye. When you go through one, because there's not enough distance between the doors, you're going to hit the other ones before the other one closes. So you're going to have that vacuum effect right down the hall.
So is there any way?
The only thing you can do is move one door in.
Slide one up.
You would have to move one of them in.
Move one of them.
But the problem with that, the way everything was set up, you got the brick.
Right, there's transitions that aren't.
The window wall is built into the wall.
Right.
So the drywall went over it, the brick went to it.
Right.
So you would have to probably build a false column in there somewhere to do a transition or something like that.
But the best solution is the most expensive solution.
That would be my opinion.
I guess this is what I'm getting at.
Can
Not
I-
trying to, not trying to expedite everything. I'm just saying, I understand this stuff kind of, so.
But I also, if we're looking at solving the handicap access problem, it is a 3-point problem. Are there any grants that we could get to contribute to solving the whole problem?
Yeah, there was a specific ADA for courts grant that came out a couple of years back. I'm still trying to track down the details from somebody I know who actually got one. And then there's also the state and municipal facilities grants, and a lot of those that have been successful in the last couple of years have revolved around ADA. So if that's a priority for the town board in terms of that application, those applications, I don't believe it's part of the CFA. I think it's independent of the CFA. So let me get some details to you. I'll let you know. But yes, there, especially for ADA upgrades, Guy could probably speak to this a bit better, but there have been a number of, throughout the state, suddenly a whole plethora of ADA type of lawsuits that have come forward.
So I guess my opinion on this would be then if we go, we figure out and plan what we want, where we want it. Whether it, you know, and I think it includes both front doors, the clerk's office, whether it be a lower service window, which I think is a great idea. If there's a shade in it, that's fine. And also whatever we need to do to
If you're
take
going
doors of that.
If you're going to be looking into grants, you might think about these 2 side doors that are shut going down the hallways during court, because they open out, and if that same person that tried to get in the depths, they would have never gotten in that door. And so that means nobody can get down to us
They can't get to the bathroom
or the
either.
bathrooms or the supervisor. So you're looking at probably another $5,000 between those 2 doors.
Right, let's
Think of a total solution.
let's
and-
shoot for the stars on this, and then we can do what we need to do.
Well, and then with this roughly 44,000, keep in mind patching and repairing, they're not going to take care of this, so we have to find another contractor. I didn't talk to anybody, but I'm thinking you're looking at 10 to 15, you'd probably know. I mean, you got to set scaffolding up, take it down.
For the finished work.
So we're talking 48 plus 15.
You're probably talking somewhere between 55 to 65, probably just for the front doors.
Well, we have options, right, Tim? We have options.
I think you're more than close to 6 figures if you're doing
If you're doing
Yeah.
all the doors, you're going to be over $100,000.
Yeah, but it's good to know what the big solution is, and we'll work back from that.
Well, I think it's also good to start with the big package, going to the granting agencies and saying, look, we want to make our building accessible. These are the sticking points that we've identified. Here's how much it's going to cost. It's a lot.
Right.
I think also as you look at these grants, there might be some things they will pay for. They may pay for the opening, where it slides open as a swings open. The swing rather than the slider. I don't know. Maybe they'll pay for the slider. All we can do is send out some pings and see if there's any lights coming back the other way.
Well, I mean, so essentially right now we have to figure out who's gonna design this? I mean, is it something you wanna try to tackle then at this point, or is it something you want somebody else to do? Well, you've already done some legwork on the doors, obviously. You got
What else do you guys need from me if you needed something?
We need the design of the access window.
Well, let me swing back to CJ.
Yep.
When we're going for grants, should we come in with the design worked out? How much of the design needs to be worked out? What level would be best to get to before we get to that point?
It kind of depends on the project, of course. I was actually speaking with Ed about this earlier, that when we go to apply for a grant, we should have some estimation of both the staff time that will need to be put in for this, because sometimes you can't include in kind, et cetera. But also what if any obligations for grant administration and.
You're gonna want probably, without stepping on toes again, you're gonna want a full scope of work.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. It's fleshed
We
out
can
as
come up
possible.
with that, we can hire somebody to come up with that, I don't think we need to.
How about if we look at the guy who does this for a living?
I'm not looking for that, but
I
I know,
but if I'm going to a surgeon, I'm not going to a plumber. Sorry. I mean, I'm going to somebody who does this. And by the way, you need this, this, and this. And I think between you and Lynn and CJ to feed you what the information, how the dialogue is, because all grants have dialogue.
Yeah, so ideally, you'd want to start out with at least some kind of conceptual study that would then feed into, if it was an engineering project or whatnot, a feasibility study, and then from there, that would pay for the implementation of the scope of work that was prepared for essentially a feasibility study. But this is not a massive project, but, so a little bit of a concept with some numbers and the general scope of work, like Doug is saying, that's pretty good to go on. And a good rationale, of course, tying it to the accessibility needs.
Well, and specific examples of problems. This is not just theoretical. This is people who are coming here with issues that are real and experienced.
So in the meantime, what do we do to solve it temporarily?
hire a drone.
Do we get an intercom?
Do you have a buzzer out there?
That's what I was thinking.
Someone,
Some kind of
Put
buzzer.
an
that
intercom
goes on that
outside,
actually
maybe
has
some
to-
wireless outside where they call in, that would have to go into a couple offices and somebody help me get in the front door or
Uh-huh.
something?
That would probably be wise, why not?
I like that idea.
It's an inexpensive idea.
But I thought maybe, I
Not
didn't ask
foolproof.
Dad about this yet, but if he's looking at wireless for here, maybe he could find the same thing, wireless for, some kind of a buzzer. We could put a big note on the door or
Yeah.
something like that.
Please push for
Help.
For assistance, yeah, for assistance.
Hey, get some kid out there.
If it's portable, you just take it at night, right?
Well, essentially, you get the doorbell you got now.
The ring,
Ring.
where you can see people.
I mean, essentially, that's what you need, right?
So action plan is we have some sort of dialogue going between,
We get the temporary service for what we did, and then we get to see what exactly we want to do.
So we can start looking into that.
and when the three of you collaborate, you can share it with the rest of the board and see what your thoughts are.
guys should be involved because it's a public works project.
Prevailing wage.
Yeah, and all the public works.
All this, I took this was done by prevailing wage.
But we can pretty easily come up with a scope of work and see what.
Great. Thank you for doing that.
And then bring Guy in when it's
Yeah, when you
time.
go to bid, you're gonna need your PRC number, and you're gonna have to have a bid that gives all the required notices.
But I think the intercom would probably do in-house and just have somebody put that.
At this point,
Yeah,
I
Yeah,
agree,
let's-
that's something you
let's
can
do
get
that.
tomorrow.
yeah.
Well,
Give a week or two.
Yeah. Give us a little.
all right, move on.
So, if I can, while we're talking about this, the condenser is no good. The third condenser went out last fall. So we need to replace the condenser in the coil. That takes care of this whole end of the building. So the courtroom's good, our end of the building down here is good.
There's a maintenance schedule and log on and all this stuff.
This is for air conditioning.
Yes, yes.
Well, we have one on
Jamie takes
I'm
care
sure
of.
you.
We're okay on the maintenance stuff, but that was the last one that needed to be replaced from the original building.
Would he do that then?
Okay.
He would, well, I got 3 prices, he was in the middle of the road. It went from 6,100 to 93, he was at 65. My suggestion is, let him do it, because he did the other 2, he knows what he's doing, and then he will be servicing the stuff here very shortly. What we need to get this, I'm hoping in May, I didn't know if we needed a resolution.
That way the threshold doesn't meet the threshold.
I didn't think it did, but I didn't know what the
For
policy number was.
public bidding? No,
It's maintenance.
repair maintenance is,
If I wait until May and it gets real hot, then I can say it's an emergency.
It was hot today. We're gonna need it.
Yeah, it's a little hot here, I'm just saying.
So,
10 grand needs 3 bids, which you've gotten.
Yeah, this is well under that.
Yeah, so, you know, you're
so
fine.
I would say it's a repair job, and I think I'd just go ahead and find.
I can move
Yeah,
Friday,
it's
call
still-
him tomorrow and say, let's do this.
it's still prevailing wage.
Yeah, no,
It's Article 9.
they were all told that when they did this.
Okay.
So it's, but it's a repair job, so it's something's gotta happen.
Yep.
And there's money in the budget for it?
Yeah, we knew
I would
last
think,
fall.
I would
we
think
knew
we'd
last
have to
fall
move
that
it
was
to
going.
and fix it though,
Yeah.
anyway.
Well, you're gonna have to,
Well, that would be the resolution, you just putting money in the budget line, but there's money in the budget line, so I say go ahead and do it.
well, money in the budget line, okay, without being 100% sure here. I mean, you want to have something definitive tonight.
I would like to, so I can call him tomorrow, because we're gonna want, it's gonna take him a couple of weeks to get it here to do it, we're gonna need it in May. It's pretty warm in here now.
I think that would be something we need to go right away.
So let's move this forward with the understanding that it isn't in the budget line, it will be the budget line. And is it 65, is that a hard number, or do you want to go up to 7,000? How do you want to do
I would
it?
go up till at least 65 is what he has down here. He's usually been pretty good about hanging with it, but you never know what you're gonna run into. There might be,
Another part that needs replaced, yeah.
might be something else.
I'd say go up to 75, just to like,
7,500? You okay with that?
none of those add-ons are cheap.
So for me, the process going forward is, do we need a motion for this? Do we need a resolution for this? Sounds like it's a motion. We allocate 7,500 for the condenser for the air conditioning system.
Condenser and coil.
For
Condenser.
repair.
Repair the air conditioner.
And it'll go in the proper, that was something we talked about going on the reserve fund, remember? We had our budget, we're gonna do all that. And now we're gonna have more discussion about, remember, the R and the.
We need to do that budget time, is the word.
But as we implement it, we have to do it now. So one of the things we're doing in the future is that we're going to allocate money for, put it as an R in the budget itself, so it's already there, so we don't have these discussions. You know, as we transcend over to using more reserves, we also educate ourselves to how you really want to do this if we're all in agreement to use the money and the money's there. So it's a teachable moment for all of us, and that's fine, I might be an educator, as long as we get positive results. So having said that, we'll allocate up to 7,500, it needs to have a motion done. Shall I make it put it in the proper line? I don't know what the line is right off the top of my head. Am I okay, guy, with this? I mean.
Yeah, I mean, it's already been allocated in the budget as long as you comply with your procurement policies and make sure it's, you got your PRC number for the Article 9 work that's going to be scheduled.
See, the only thing, I don't know if we have specifically said, we're going to allocate this amount of money in the budget for this. I want to be,
Well, is there a building maintenance and repair line?
there is actually. We just move more money into it, into the reserve fund. But I don't think it's, I can't remember, I don't have the budget in front of me. Now I do. Okay. Right out of the sky, this job. Imagine that. Son of a gun. So, looking under. Let's take it out of the attorney, please. Just kidding, guys. Just kidding. Out of our storage community center. Buildings. Building repairs. We have, let's see what's allocated this year. This is a modified budget. Proposed 4,400.
I think we need to put some more
this would be A 1620.405 unless, then it has building repairs for reserve. That's an R, that's what we talked about earlier, we can put it in that line if we have to. Or we can just take it out of the fund balance.
Let's just take out the fund balance for now, because I don't want you to leave it on the others for sure. And we have money.
I appreciate that. 'Cause I don't heal as fast as I used to. So having said that, so building repairs, let's move 7,500 more into the building repairs line.
7,500 from,
The unallocated.
From the unallocated fund balance into the building repairs fund, which I believe is A 1620.405.
If I could, I'd suggest maybe you authorize Lynn to select the lowest compliant bidder, responsible bidder, and you to sign any contracts they submit once it's reviewed and approved. That way you can.
Well, I heard him say he didn't want to pick the lowest, he wanted to pick the middle, and I
He
didn't
said
hear why.
responsible.
Responsible. 'Cause
The
we have,
guy did it
Because
before.
he's done the other two, Bill, because he's done the other
Okay,
two, so
okay.
he knows what he's doing.
we have a best practice
Okay.
policy, so it's
It's
lowest
only
always mean lowest.
$400 more.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying, I just want to make sure that everybody's saying the same thing. Okay,
Okay,
I will move that.
So is that the right verbiage?
Yeah, technically, you're supposed to take the lowest bidder. We have a best value local law. The question is, was it noticed as a best value bid procedure? So,
I don't know anything about that.
right, yeah. So is there a reason why, I mean, that's why you look at the bids and understand what they're comprised of and check to see if anyone's on a department list and whether or not they've complied with all of the requests. And
I think what we can do tonight.
you have to make that determination, and you actually have to study who the applicant is and go and check the lists. There's two of them. The Department of Labor hosts both now, workers' comp and prevailing wage department lists.
Okay, and we have a motion that says that Lynn will be authorized to make this decision, and Lynn will work with you to make sure that he follows the procedures.
Right, I think just authorize him to select the lowest responsible bidder.
Right.
And basically, that's going to be a determination of what are they bidding upon.
It's your interpretation of it,
I'm going to agree, but I got to tell you, I don't have a lot of time for a lot of this paperwork, so. I'm just being honest with you.
I understand.
And I didn't know anything about this prevailing wage, PC, whatever, any of that stuff.
I think you can just look the vendors up on the list, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, you
Just-
can do everything. You can fill out the PRC number online, you can look up the vendors online, you can do the analysis as to which is the overall lowest bid based on what they've proposed. It isn't always the lowest number.
I don't know if Jamie had to do this on the last two.
Are you familiar with this, Jess?
yes.
Okay.
So I could maybe assist some.
she takes on anything.
Well, yeah, I think I can find the list and look the vendors up and determine whether they're on the list or not.
Yeah.
I mean,
What if they're not on the list?
If they're not on the list, then they're not, if they haven't been disqualified for not failing prevailing wage requirements or being debarred or whatever it's called.
They're allowed to do the work.
They're allowed to do the work.
Right, they
There
have
you
to,
go.
right,
But-
they have to be qualified, they have to be a responsible bidder.
We didn't do it.
It's not just department, it could be irresponsible because you have a history of them not completing jobs, et cetera, et cetera. There's lots of reasons why someone can be deemed irresponsible. It's not just department. So you have the wiggle room, you just have to go with the lowest bid once you do the analysis.
Are we still in the $7,500 range? Is that still a comfortable range?
Yep. Yeah, I think
Said
they're-
I did a prevailing wage.
I would agree, and I would say that can be pretty easily.
Okay. We have some guidelines.
Thank you, Lynn.
We have some help. We also have a motion.
Well, yeah, sort of.
Ish.
I can tell you what my motion might say. And then you can fill in the blanks that I've missed.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay, I've got motion to allocate $7,500 for repair of air conditioner. And I'm thinking also in this, you're going to move $7,500 from unallocated fund balance to building repairs. And it's gonna be in there that authorize Lynn Day to select the lowest responsible bidder. And do we put in there also about check the debarment list and following prevailing wage?
That's
Don't
part
put
of
that in.
Yeah.
That's part of the responsible bidder thing?
Right, and then authorize and to sign the contract based on Lynn's recommendation.
Okay.
Assuming there'll at least be a purchase order or something that has to be signed. It's a contract, so section 64 is going to apply. Right, usually you just countersign an estimate or a proposal sheet.
Okay, I make that motion.
I'll
The way I read it, I mean, it might be turned around a little.
I understand.
Okay.
Those words will be in there somewhere with some conjunctions to add.
Okay. Okay, so Joe
Who else
made the
read it?
motion. And who did the second?
I did, so.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed?
Okay. Update real quick, met with 3 different banks. This is about our pot of money that we're looking to invest. And real quick, there's 2 different components. One is our everyday money that we're using. What do we do with that? The money market now, I think is at 0.4%, looking for a higher rate of yield. The other one is the bigger pot of money, whether it be the fund balance that we set aside, or other monies. It could be water and sewer, it could be whatever. What do we do with those? We're looking at maybe doing a prototype, maybe just doing 1 CD from each bank. Somebody get a tone of water and move forward on that. They gave us some elaborate investments, and I'm not comfortable with those. I'd rather keep it straightforward, and we'll see how they work. And they're all pretty comparable, but that was 2 months ago, and who knows what's going to happen next month. So some of these might be 3 months, some might be 6 months. So we're having that discussion, hoping to have something through email to you people to look at and chew on. And hopefully it has something for May, and we'll see how the process goes from there.
I would suggest, given that we've got a water district with $2 million sitting in it, that we experiment with that one, because that's not one that's getting a lot of money moved in and out of it, so we can try that out, see how it works with something that's got a significant amount, not all the money would go in, but a chunk of that, because I think that would be least disruptive, and there's enough money there to make a difference.
It's fine, doesn't matter to me. I mean, I think this is just a step in the process.
Yeah, I'm just saying there's one that I think would be at least disruptive to the whole organization.
And maybe you take 200,000 times 3. You go to each bank, see what they do.
Yeah.
How's the response time? How's their customer service? Are they rolling over, or are they just blowing us off? Are we happy with the service? And do that. The other thing is in our fund balance, or in our investment policy, it says to distribute to more than one investor. Okay, not investor, investment bank. So these are the things as we step. Eventually, I sense that the rates will eventually be going up at some point. But anyways, the other part, once again, is what is the day-to-day? You look at the last supervisory report, you found what the yield was on that. Now, a lot of that was moving money into reserves, but, we're making a minimum amount. And what if you get 2% instead of 1.4 or 1.5%? 1% of $1 million is $10,000. We're talking, looking at 50,000. That might help with that, or whatever, depending on where the money came from.
Yes.
Solar law we talked about. Kyle Dake, working with Patrick on that, with the sign that Craig Christopher is doing right now. You've seen him on the roads where for the girls basketball and for the baseball basketball, it's going to be similar to that. I'll let their time frame, because I want to make sure everybody is here for the presentation. Stanley Burke, we're still working on that. Peter Wheeler, we're still working on that. That moves us to, yes.
I think we've neglected the track team because we've had some girls get first place state pole vaulting.
I'm open to suggestions.
So I'm gonna contact and see. One was last year and it's a potential for this year too. First place in the state.
That's huge.
And then the other thing is we have a young lady, Ellie Howell, who just got a huge award, not only state, but regional in voice.
Yeah.
And I think they should be recognized.
I'm open to suggestions. A lot of these, well, not a lot of them, but you look at the ones, one was from 2001. The
that this was done, for instance, with the All-State team. You may,
I'm just thinking, just having them come in.
Bring
like
them in and get
soccer did.
as opposed to a sign down?
Yeah, I'm not talking about a sign, I'm just talking about recognizing.
That's pretty typical. Yeah,
Yeah, I think we should do that.
I totally agree.
We shouldn't just do
I totally agree.
soccer or football, we should.
Well, not even just athletics, you do something where they're
Yeah.
exceptional, I think it's all a
We have
good
some
idea.
exceptional artists too, periodically
Yeah.
too.
So I'll contact the high school and ask.
Okay.
We could be doing one of these every meeting.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah, I think it'd be great.
I don't have my cheat sheet with me, but we do know we need to go into executive session.
May I just say something?
You may.
I was just gonna say, Andrew, if you contact whomever you're gonna do when you decide what you're gonna do, our office will do up
Oh, it's a
their certificates.
Okay.
Just give us a little bit of time.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
I would actually like to go into executive session and continue our discussion of the specific personnel issue that you're having.
Okay. I'll second that.
A witness.
I know we're not mine.
Anymore.
You hung on as long as you could tonight.
I did.
That's great.
Okay, so Joe, you, did I have a second?
I think you
I
hired.
heard one, but I didn't hear.
People.
To
Go to executive session.
Those big fans.
That would be 85.
Do we have to
I know,
take
but you had
evaluation?
certain you collect
I don't think you have to be here, CJ.
Walk at the same
Either does
time.
I think you do.
Oh, she does?
Neither one.
Oh, sorry.
Just wondering,
You just said yes.
I think you do.
Are you asking for them to be here? I don't think so.
I think, well,
I think CJ might have her.
I think she should stay.
Sorry. Missy, sorry.
I know it's a long day.
You're not in trouble.
Not yet.
Okay, so I need to, I didn't want not to do that. So this is the motion to go in executive session for the
Yeah.
specific personnel issue. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?